We're going to begin reading our second fairy tale. This fairy tale is called Rumpelstiltskin. You might be familiar with it because fairy tales are familiar stories that you might have heard before. But as we listen to this story, I want you to see if there's any differences in this version to the version that you might be familiar with. Remember, a lot of stories have different versions, and there might be some similarities and some differences between them. For today's assignment, at the end of our read aloud, you're going to do the same thing you did with Sleeping Beauty. You're going to do your story elements chart, your characters, setting, problem, solution, good characters, evil characters, and any magic that is in the fairy tale. So listen carefully for those things so you can do your chart when you're done. Once upon a time, I heard the same familiar beginning that we often hear in fairy tales. Once upon a time, there was a poor man who had a beautiful daughter. She was so beautiful and clever that he could not help boasting about her. I'm going to stop and talk about that word, boasting. To boast is to brag about something or to speak highly of yourself, to think that you do something very well or you're the best at something. So he was boasting about his daughter, meaning he was bragging about her. Now this old man was called a miller, and a miller is a person who grinds grain to make flour, like the type of flour we use to bake with. One day, the miller happened to come to the king. And to impress the king, he began boasting about his daughter. And before he knew it, he found himself saying that his daughter was so amazing and so wonderful that she could even spin gold out of straw. "That," said the king, "is a talent worth having. Bring your daughter to me and let us see what she can do." So if we look at this picture, we know that this man right here is the miller. That's the man that has the daughter, and he's the one that was bragging or boasting about his daughter. And of course, this character over here is the king. We know because he has the crown. He's sitting on his throne, so he's a royal character. Now, the man tells the king that his daughter can spin gold out of straw. Do you think she can actually do that? I don't think so either. But he said it. So the king said, "Bring your daughter to me and let me see what she can do." Do you think this might be a problem for the miller? Because if she can't actually do that, what is he going to do? Let's read on and find out. When the girl was brought to the palace, the king led her to a room that was almost full of straw. He pointed to a spinning wheel and said, "Go to work. You must spin this straw into gold by early morning, or else." The poor miller's daughter, of course, she could not spin straw into gold. What could she do? She could think of nothing, and in the end, she sat down and began to cry. So let's think about this part of the story. We hear the king tell her to spin the straw into gold, and he points to a spinning wheel. Where else have we heard of a spinning wheel? That's right, in Sleeping Beauty. The spinning wheel is what she pricked her finger on to go into a sleep for 100 years. So we hear that there's a spinning wheel in this fairy tale as well. So she sat down and began to cry because she knows she can't do it. And that's when, all of a sudden, click, the door opened, and in walked a little man. "Good evening, miller's daughter," he said. "Why are you crying?" "Because," she answered, "I must spin all of this straw into gold before morning, and I don't know how." Then the little man came close to her and whispered, "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" "Why, I'll give you my necklace," she stammered. So I think we have some elements of magic here. What do you think? I definitely think This right here is a magical character, and he magically appeared, right? He wasn't in there when the king put her in the room. The little man took the necklace, stood at the spinning wheel, and whir, 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 he spun and he spun and he spun, and by sunup, all of the straw had been spun into gold. When the king arrived at sunrise, he was amazed. But the sight of all of that gold made him greedy for more. So the king took the miller's daughter to a larger room, filled with even more straw, and he told her that she must spin all of this into gold in one night. Again, the girl did not know what to do and sat down to cry. When, click, the door opened and in walked the little man. Crying again, I see, he said. So I suppose you have to spin all of this straw into gold too. What will you give me if I do it for you? The ring from my finger, answered the girl. So the little man took the ring, stood at the spinning wheel, and whir, 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 he spun and he spun and he spun, and by sunup, all of the straw had been spun into gold. When the king arrived, he was overjoyed at the sight of all of the gold, but still he grew hungry and greedy for more gold. When the king arrived, so he took the miller's daughter to an even larger room filled with straw and said, spin all of this in one night, and if you succeed, well then you shall be my wife. So the king told her if she was able to do it, that he would make her the queen. That's right. If she's the wife, she's the queen. The king had hardly left the room when, click, the door opened, and in came the little man, asking, what will you give me if I spin all of the straw for you one more time? Now, I want to stop there for a minute. This little man, is he being nice to the girl? You might think, well, yeah, he's being nice. He is helping her to spin all of the straw into gold when she can't do it herself. But what's the only reason he's doing it? That's right, because she's giving him something. So he really isn't being very kind. He's making her give him something to do it. He's not just helping out of the kindness of her heart. Out of his heart, I'm sorry. What will you give me if I spin all of this straw for you one more time? I have nothing left to give, the girl answered sadly. Then promise me this, said the little man. Promise me that when you are queen, you will give me your first child. The miller's daughter thought there really was very little chance that she would ever be the queen, and so she promised, and the little man sat down and got to work at once. By morning, the gold was piled so high that it reached the ceiling. When the king arrived, he was so pleased to see all of this gold that he wanted. He married the miller's daughter and made her queen. So even though the miller's daughter thought, well, there's certainly no way I'll ever be queen, he made her the queen because all of the straw was spun into gold, which is what the king wanted. In a year's time, the king and queen had a fine little baby. She thought no more about the little man or her promise to him. Think about the promise. He said, I will spin the rest of this gold one last time the rest of this straw one last time into gold if you give me your firstborn child. But the queen wasn't thinking about that anymore. Then one day, as she sat alone in her room rocking her baby, click, the door opened, and in walked the little man who said, Now it is time for you to give me what you promised me." The queen, filled with fear, held her baby tightly. "Please," she said, "I will give you all the riches of the kingdom. Only leave my child." But the little man said, "No, I would rather have a living baby than all of the treasures in the world." Then the queen began to weep and wail, and the little man felt pity for her. Let's stop there. Pity is a feeling of sadness that someone has for somebody else. So when she got so upset, the little man actually felt a little bit sad for her. Okay, I will give you this one chance," he said. "In 3 days, if you can guess my name, then you may keep your child." And then he was gone as quickly as he had come. So, originally, the promise was that he made her promise to give him the firstborn baby. But when he saw how upset she was and how afraid and sad she was, he took pity on her and he said, Okay. If you can guess my name, I'll let you keep your baby." So this is similar to what part of Sleeping Beauty? That's right. This is similar to the 12th fairy softening the evil spell on the baby in Sleeping Beauty. She made it less bad. So this is kind of what he's doing. He's saying, okay, I won't take your baby now. If you can guess my name, you can keep her. The queen lay awake all night thinking of all the names she had ever heard. She sent a messenger to ride through the land and collect all the names that he could find. And when the little man came the next day, she tried all that she was able to think of. Alexander, Balthazar, Casper, Doolittle, Eggleston, Ferdinand, and many more. But after each one, the little man only said, "That is not my name." The next day, the queen sent servants all over the kingdom to find the most unusual names. And when the little man came, she tried them all. "Are you Sheepshanks? Roast Ribs? Snickerdoodle? Groucho? Winklehopper?" But after each one, the little man only said, "That is not my name." On the third and last day, the queen was worried sick. She held her child tight and wondered what to do when, click, the door opened and in walked, no, not the little man, but the messenger that the queen had sent in search of names. He bowed to the queen and said, "My lady, as I passed through the woods last night, I came to a high hill, and near it was a little house, and outside the house was a fire burning, and around the fire danced a funny little man. And as he hopped up and down, he sang this song. Today I brew, tomorrow I bake, and then the fair queen's child I'll take, and no one can deny my claim, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name." So what has the messenger done? That's right, he's found the name. The messenger left, and almost as soon as he had gone, the little man arrived. The queen greeted him by saying, "Is your name Jack?" What do you think she's doing? That's right, she's playing with him. She knows his name. "That is not my name." "Then are you called Harry?" "That is not my name." "Then perhaps," said the queen, "your name is Rumpelstiltskin." No, who told you that?" cried the little man. And in his anger, he stamped his foot so hard that it went right into the ground up to his waist. Then he stamped his other foot and he went deep into the ground way over his head. And the queen and her child never feared him again. All right, that's the end of our fairy tale.